The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
May win the battle, but he ain't win the damn war.
That's it?
That's it.
So he's not going to get there. He's not going to win the championship.
He ain't.
How do you retaliate?
I'm just not going to let him win it. I'm going to win it.
Logano with the run. Look at this run. He's had the short run speed all day long. This kind of a finish. This kind of a run at the end is tailor-made for him.
All the way to the back bumper of the 78. Now to the outside. Here comes Logano trying to take the lead away.
Wow,
He drives past the 78. He'll take the lead as they go down the backstretch. No pressure at all. Well, he has risen well above the pressure as he comes out of turn number 4 to claim his first ever Cup Series championship. It's Joey Logano who wins.
Welcome to episode 88 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Tuesday, November 2nd, 2018. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, James Cush. James, Truex said he was going to stop him. What happened?
You have outdone yourself on the intro this week. That was beautiful music. Wow. Yeah, said he wasn't going to let him do it, and I don't think he really had a choice.
No, I mean, not only did he not live up to his word, but he was the guy that Joey Logano passed to win the championship.
Joey Logano took this championship in more ways than one, and Martin Truex Jr. was on the receiving end of it multiple times.
Yep, that is for sure.
Wow.
So
yeah, what a race, huh?
We still only have one current active driver with multiple championships in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, with Jimmy Johnson as the only driver in the Final Four that had not won a championship gets his. Joey Logano is the 2018 NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series champion. And yeah, it was a heck of a race. I don't think it was the most epic Homestead race ever. But
no,
the cautions were timed perfectly, thanks to Mr. Keselowski and Daniel Suarez, to give us an exciting finish. And I think I think we were shaping up to have a Chicagoland style finish between Harvick and Truex, honestly.
Yeah.
And that ended that. And as soon as that caution came out, I'm like, this is Busch or Logano's race, because they were the short run guys all day, and Busch they couldn't get out of their own way. So that was the end for them. I mean, I will say that all the controversy over the pit stall, which if you guys were living under a rock, Denny Hamlin wins the pole. Kyle Busch qualifies second. Instead of taking the first pit stall, Hamlin's team takes a different pit stall, gives Kyle Busch the good pit stall on pit road. It gets Kyle off pit road first to take the lead for the final restart, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly in Kyle Busch's favor.
Yeah.
And Kyle Busch, in my opinion, and probably my opinion probably doesn't matter because the stats probably back it up, but Kyle Busch, the best restarter in the history of the sport.
Right.
Had it. It was the ball was in his court, as they say. And
yeah, he was able to overcome mistakes by his pit crew that put him in the back all day long. And the only argument that I could say that the pit crew cost him the race, because in the end he still had the chance to put it in his own hands, is that because of the issues on pit road, he wasn't able to run out front. They weren't able to work on the car like they might have been able to, because they were working on it in traffic. But I don't think you can pin it all on the pit crew's shoulders, but I'm guessing there's a front tire changer that is nervous right now.
Yeah. That it was so weird. You and I were kind of texting a little bit about it.
Yeah.
It was a weird Kyle Busch race. Just the whole 18 team was just off.
Yeah. It was like they took every mistake they didn't make during the season and just made them all in the one race that it mattered.
Yeah, the one race you have to win, and he comes up fourth and finishes fourth in the points because of it. That's right. Just, it wasn't like he had a terrible race. It was just, you need to elevate to the next level, and Joey Logano surged past the big three.
Yeah.
And took his first championship.
So I know the answer to this question, James, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because the people on the podcast may not know the answer to this question. How do you feel about the fact that somebody other than the big three won the championship?
It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying, because we talk about in all across the NASCAR media landscape, it's the big three this and the big three that. And I was super annoyed by the name, the big three, even when they started it. And just to see the big three not win is just a little bit gratifying for me. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I mean, honestly, and we talked about it a little bit last week. This was the most deserving championship 4 we've had.
Yes, it was.
There was nobody that was going to win this championship and we were going to go, oh man, they really didn't deserve to win it. Everybody deserved to win it that was here. Honestly, As far as season performance, probably the one that deserved it the least would be Joey Logano, just because they weren't excellent all season, but they were there all year. And they were there when it mattered, and that's what's important about this format is it's not just consistency is important, but you also have to be good when it matters. And he was the guy he was the first one to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was,
or in the Final Four. I mean,
yeah, to qualify for Homestead,
Yeah.
he was the only one locked in, because of the Harvick penalty and all that. This championship reminds me of my favorite championship. You know what I'm gonna reference here, which was claimed 7 years ago today. But when Tony Stewart won in 2011, that whole season he had zero business being forget being a championship contender. He had zero business being in the chase at that point.
Right.
And all of a sudden, when the big lights came on, that team just performed the entire playoffs and was, no better than they were. They were at their peak performance in that championship race at Homestead. Joey Logano, that last restart, that team was picture perfect and did everything that they had to do. And Joey Logano, I know fans don't like him, and that's fine. He's gotten into it with pretty much everybody's favorite driver. But as far as a talent, he is top-notch talent as a driver. And this guy's due. He was going to win a championship, whether it was this year or sometime. He was my
pick the last 2 years prior to this year.
Yeah, and then he comes off his worst year with Penske,
right,
and finally gets the job done.
Yeah.
But he's just that good. It's the same discussion we had about Kyle Busch forever before he won his championship. Kyle Busch is probably the best talent out there. Joey Logano, the best talent, probably without a championship, now has one.
Yeah.
He's got his.
Yep, definitely. According to Joey Logano, there is a new big three now. It is him and his wife or fiance.
It is his wife.
Yes, wife, and the Monster Energy Cup. He posted on Twitter today. I thought that was pretty good.
He's been doing a great job on Twitter, by the way. He's got his head stuck in the trophy.
Yeah.
On the Empire State Building. He's all over the place with that bad boy.
He put the kid in the trophy during the championship celebration. That was pretty good.
The trophy's big enough.
Oh, man, that thing's huge.
You could use it for storage.
Forget how big it is until they have to try and lift it on a stage.
Yeah, it's massive.
So, I want to revisit this, and we've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast, but considering he's a champion, let's talk one more time about, I don't get the hate for Joey Logano. Like, okay, so Joey's been in the series. This is his 10th year in the Cup Series. And when Joey started, I got it. He was whiny. He didn't perform up to expectations. His dad fought all his battles for him. I mean, and everybody's like, quit letting everybody push you around. Quit letting your dad talk for you. Blah, 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 blah. So guess what? He got a different ride. He's doing his own thing. He doesn't take any crap from anybody. He's pushing people around now. He's unapologetic about it. And everybody's telling him, oh, you got to calm down. Like, come on, dude. You guys got what you wanted with Joey Logano. Not to mention, he's like the nicest freaking guy in the world. He's always happy. You see him off of the track. He's excellent.
Right.
And I don't get it. I don't get the hate for him. And maybe being on the inside changes things a little bit, but I don't know. It seems a lot of people in the NASCAR industry can't understand, except for the guys that he's had run-ins with. I'm sure Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. probably understand, but
I think the disdain for Joey Logano is very similar to that of Kyle Busch.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's not, because I think Kyle deserves it a lot more than Joey does.
True.
I think Joey was thrust into a position to fill Tony Stewart's shoes, wasn't able to perform. He was billed as sliced bread from Mark Martin when he was 15 freaking years old, and so like, he was unfairly thrown into this, whereas Kyle's created everything that Kyle is dealing. I mean, Logano never wrecked somebody at in a truck series race, complete like Blake. It's different.
Logano races hard, that's for sure. Kyle Busch races hard too, but not.
I agree that the hatred and the polarization is the same, but the reasoning for it, Kyle deserves it. Sorry, but Kyle deserves it.
Yeah, no, he does. Joey probably doesn't deserve it as much as Kyle, but I think people look at Joey and he's got that same kind of Kyle Busch look on his face.
Yeah,
they're just goofy and weird a little bit.
Joey smiles when you see Kyle. Like
he's happy.
Kyle comes down the red carpet to come into the drivers' meeting, and he's got a scowl on his face. He's got no emotion. He doesn't interact with fans. He signs the autograph and gives it back to you like a statue, like he's on an assembly line. Joey comes down. He chats with people. He's smiling. He's laughing. He's waving at people. Man. I just don't get it. You guys, you are missing out. This guy is good, and he's a nice guy. He's entertaining. He's great for our sport. Get on the Joey Logano bandwagon a little bit. All right, I'm done.
Yeah. Good. That was good. No, I agree with all those points. Absolutely.
I'm with you. I didn't like him either, but having the interactions with him this year, and it wasn't full on interactions, but just seeing him, especially at the what was it? I think it was the truck race in June at MIS was what really turned me around for him. And that weekend in general, just how happy he was and how good he was with the fans and everything. It really changed my opinion of him. And I get it. I don't understand why people are upset with him. I think everybody needs to put a little bit more thought into it and maybe decide that the hatred is not warranted.
Yeah,
but at the same time, go ahead and hate him because it's fun.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we got to have villains. I mean, at some point, Chase Elliott's going to get to the mountaintop too, and he's going to have to go through this guy.
Yep.
So we're going to have the hero and the villain. So if Joey's going to be that guy,
right,
let him be that guy. I mean, for God's sakes, we talk about the young guns in NASCAR. This dude's 28 years old. He's still really, really young. And now he's got the championship. He's got the Daytona 500 win. He's got 10 years in and basically still has a full career to go.
Yeah.
Which is just he's going to be around a long time. So if you don't like him now, you're going to stick with NASCAR for the next 20 years, you're still going to have to deal with Joey. He's not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he's here for a while.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. So Austin Dillon's one of the young guys, right? He's in that young crowd that we're talking about. One of the young drivers won the Daytona 500 this year. This young influx. Joey's younger than Austin Dillon.
Yeah. Yep, he certainly is. Yeah, he is. He could be considered a young gun if he wasn't a 10-year veteran. That's the crazy thing.
We talk about how young Kyle Busch is, but Joey's he's a baby.
He is.
Lots of time.
He's going to have multiple championships now. Now that he's got this first one, and this is something I did want to talk to you about at some point, but I don't know how many times we're going to see multiple champions or guys winning championships in a row anymore with the way that this format is.
Right.
I mean, Truex got pretty darn close, but
I don't know. I don't know where all the talk came from. I didn't hear him say it specifically, but suddenly there was a lot of talk about Kyle wanting to make it to 7. Kyle Busch. So did he start talking about it and saying that that's his goal now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I mean, I know he needs another goal with all the wins he's got.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody's going to get past 3.
Yeah,
honestly,
I'm with you. I think the field's too tough.
Yeah.
Field's too tough. There's too much talent.
Those guys, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if the way that this year went for Busch and Harvick, they should both be multiple-time champions and still are stuck at 1 because Joey Logano was the best on this night.
Well, look at the season that Kevin Harvick had. Kevin Harvick won 8 races this year. That's amazing. That's an amazing season.
Yes.
But so did Kyle Busch.
Yes.
And it's like, so you've got 2 guys here that had, epic seasons. This isn't just a career season. This is an epic season, 2 of them. And then you got Truex. He had a heck of a season too.
Yeah.
Minus those 2, he had a career season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And none of them won the championship.
20 race wins between 3 drivers. an average finish of what, 9 about between all three too. It's just nobody was close.
20 race wins in a 36 race season.
Yep. Nobody was close to them.
and none of them won the championship.
Yeah. I mean, that just shows you, but that goes back to proving our point. Like, you can be a Kevin Harvick and not win the championship. I mean, that's
right.
But that's the great thing I think about this system, though, is as a fan, your team, it's kind of like baseball. You get hot at the right time, you could win a championship.
Well,
that's a heck of a reason to stick around for the entire season.
Let's talk about that, James. We're going to talk a little bit more about the race. There's probably not a whole lot more to talk about. It's mostly, the championship. Obviously, I mean, I watched TV broadcast, and NBC did a cool thing with NBC Sports where they had the Championship 4 broadcast on that channel, and then they had the actual broadcast on NBC. But I watched the NBC broadcast and pretty sure I just saw the Championship 4 broadcast because they didn't talk about anybody else the last 100 laps of the race, except when, I guess they talked about our buddy Kyle Larson until he wrecked. But so we'll talk some more about the race, but let's talk about this in general. We crowned 3 champions this past weekend. The regular season champion did not win the championship in any of the 3 series this year.
Yes.
I think you could argue that underdogs won every single one of the championships. Christopher Bell, record-breaking season in the Xfinity Series as far as numbers of wins, and he didn't win the championship on Saturday.
Out to lunch.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing for this system?
I like it. I like that there's a chance for the underdog to win the biggest prize. Because you get that with every other sport. If you think about it,
definitely.
If you look at the NFL playoffs, I mean, there's a wild card playoff. So a team that's, not nearly as good as your top seed is going to try to, fight their way into the next round and maybe even go through. So we should have a system where, I mean, if you look at the Monster Energy Cup Series standings and you look at overall performance for the season, Eric Almirola was not the 5th best driver this year, but he ends up 5th in points because he had a heck of a playoff run.
Right.
And darn near almost made the Final Four.
Yeah.
So heck yeah, I love that. I love that there's a system in place where, just make it into the playoffs and show up for that part of the season and go win yourself a championship.
I agree with you. I'm a big fan of this system. I like the fact that we don't know to the end, and I like the fact that sometimes the best guy doesn't win. That's what sports is about. Sports is about, the David and Goliath and all, and you didn't get that as much. You still had the tendency of it to happen every once in a while. You have the Alan Kowickis that win championships in the old system, but it didn't happen that often. And I don't feel like we're manufacturing a championship in that everybody's racing under the same format. It's not like it's been designed to favor certain people. It's just, actually you could say it is designed to favor certain people because it favors people who are good at Homestead. But I think this is the way the system should be. And even to add on to that, I don't think there's another track on the circuit that's a better track to end the season at either.
Right.
I think Homestead,
beautiful. Yeah.
The racing is good. It's not as much of an aero dependent track. It's wide. It's loose. It's slick. It wears tires out. It requires you to have strategy. It's in freaking Miami, Florida, which is awesome. It's beautiful weather for the championship race. They finish under the lights. There's just nothing else you could ask for. I think everything about it is good. And I love this system. I think they've hit it on this system with the bonus points and the playoff points and the way they've got it. They finally hit the right system, and I hope we keep it for a while.
Yeah, I don't think we need to touch it for a little while. No, not at all. And and as long as we're going to keep running our this series is an intermediate track series.
Right.
We dabble in short tracks and road courses and things, but primarily we run 1.5 mile and 2 mile tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as that's still the case, Homestead's the perfect place.
I agree. It should be
10
a 1.5
years,
track.
Yeah, and in 10 years, if this series becomes a short track series, then maybe we should consider moving the championship race. But for right now, no, Homestead is the perfect 1.5-mile track.
The other nice thing about it is it's a 1.5-mile track, but it's not like all the other 1.5-mile tracks.
Yeah. Yep.
There's
exactly.
no other track on the circuit like it. There's tracks that are similar, but no other track is like it.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you got somebody like Kevin Harvick out there early in the race, and he's the one guy who's just feeding off the bottom of the track, just rooting around at the bottom and making some serious headway. And then you've got the guys who like to rim ride, and even like Logano late in the race, making a beautiful pass on the high side of the track. And it's just, there's options for guys out there,
right.
and it works.
I like the time frame too, because we start in the daytime and end in the night, like the Coke 600.
You gotta adjust.
It gives you that you have to stay on the track, you have to stay on the adjustments. You'll see guys, it'll give you this false sense of, ooh, so and so is going to be really, running for the championship because he's running well in the beginning of the race, and then toward the end it might be completely different because of strategy and not keeping up to the adjustments. I mean, we started while we were scheduled to start at 3:20. We had a skydiver in the catch fence and then oil put down on the track, which pushed that back a little bit. But
yeah, no. Which I mean, I was gonna tweet out
the first accident on track this week was the skydiver into the fence.
Yeah, and I didn't tweet it out because I just I had second thoughts. But the first thing I saw from the national media, just like straight up USA Today, was NASCAR has skydiver caught in catch fence, and I'm like, God dang it, we just crowned a champion, and this is that's what we're tweeting about.
Come on.
But
I'll tell you what, if you listen to not on a little side note, if you listen to Jeff Gluck's How I Got Here about himself, it's a pretty good insight into the USA Today.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, that was a great podcast, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. There you go.
Yep.
There's your shout out this week, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. So, I don't know what else we want to talk about with this race. We mentioned, we hit on Larson. Again, we already declared that we were over Larson earlier this season. And
that
he
was
just
a few
added
weeks
to that
ago.
here.
Yeah, my exhaustion finally set in, and I my head hit the desk with Larson. Yeah. I will say this though, I still think, and he's run really well there, and it's well documented. And I know he got in the fence this week, and that's going to happen. He wasn't really running for anything, but
yeah, he's running harder than he needs to.
God dang, that dude's really good at that track.
I know,
it's crazy. He runs that high line.
Though.
I know. If he can just, I know.
He's saving it for when he's in the Final Four.
Yeah, absolutely.
After he moves over to Hendrick to take over Jimmy Johnson's car.
It's a noticeable difference on how he runs this track and everybody else. Nobody runs it like that. Yeah. It's crazy how he is able to just stick it up on that high line and just he blows by everybody. He runs these amazing lap times. But yeah, I had some trouble. I really would like to see him make a Final Four just to see it.
I don't know if you caught that, but I want this prediction documented right here that in 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
2 seasons. His contract is up at Ganassi. JJ is going to retire, and Kyle Larson's going to drive the 48 car.
Hendrick route? Oh,
yeah. That's what's going to happen. That's my prediction.
I feel like he would be a perfect fit with Tony Stewart. I'm just saying.
I agree, which is why I don't think it's going to happen.
Kevin Harvick's got to retire at some point.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's going to be a 14 car set to fill before that 4 car.
That's true.
Because they aren't going to keep that 14 driver around if
that 4 car keeps running the way it's running. I'd never retire. So
right, exactly.
He might just have to stay there for a while.
Exactly. Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, okay. So I said a couple of weeks ago that this felt like a farewell tour for him, and we had even more of that this week. So Jimmy goes. He has the rookie uniform. He shaves the beard, goes back into rookie face form. They're doing the photos around the car in the garage area. I'm telling you, man, I know Jimmy's not going anywhere. Obviously, I'm not. Don't think I'm trying to throw something out there, but It felt so much like a fair. I had to remind myself, no, Jimmy's racing next year.
Yeah, it felt like a
farewell for the driver.
Yeah, it felt like a farewell for the driver, even though it was the farewell for the sponsor.
Right.
Pretty cool of them to give to. I know Lowe's isn't coming back, but what a cool way for them to send out Lowe's. Like, you could tell that they really appreciate everything that Lowe's provided them with that stability of sponsorship over the years.
Yep.
It's just an incredible run that they've all had together. 17 years between Lowe's, Knaus, and Johnson, it's been the one constant of the sport. Everything has changed in 17 years except that combination of those three things.
Yeah.
And now it's all going away. It's, they're all going their separate ways, which is just crazy. But that car, by the way, I don't know what it was, but that bad boy looked phenomenal.
I love
that paint scheme.
I love
beautiful.
that paint scheme. That paint scheme is the best paint scheme they've ever run in the Lowe's car.
Yeah, and the
followed
power
closely by the blue with the two white stripes down the hood and everything. That one was my second favorite, but this was my favorite.
The one he won when I was at the 500 with the 2013 scheme. Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah, just really cool. Johnson, Knaus, they didn't win. That's a crazy streak. That's also snapped. That and the Hamlin streak.
Yeah.
So yeah, even the greatest of all time will have a bad season like this. So
well, Hamlin's was how many years?
Was it 12? Was he pushing 12?
And Jimmy's was 17?
17 or 16.
Yeah, I think this would have been the 17th, maybe.
Yeah, his full-time schedule. So yeah, this was his 17th full-time season.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a crazy run. Run.
Hey, all good things come to an end.
Yep, and there's a video that's been all over Twitter I've seen of Chad Knaus walking away from the pit box for the final time, and I'm like, God, that feels like a retirement too. Maybe Eric's right.
I know,
he's just going down. He's just going down to the 24 team.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like when they retire?
You know what? I had this discussion earlier this week with somebody, and I said, whoever wins first, I feel so bad for the other guy.
Yeah.
Because if Knaus goes out and wins races without Johnson next year, Johnson's going to catch so much crap.
That is true.
And vice versa. If Johnson goes out and starts winning races next year, it's all going to be, Knaus is done, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Yeah,
so
you're right.
It's going to happen. One of them has to win at some point. So
you would assume. I mean, they don't have to.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have to. It could really be over, but I just think they're all too talented.
Yeah, you would assume it's going to happen. There's something else I was going to go on it. We're just kind of all over the place here with this, but
speaking of things going away, I got a little transition for you. So we had some drivers that possibly suited up for the last time.
Yes, that is true.
Matt Kenseth went out. I'm unbelievable. He finished 6th, which is just crazy.
I know.
So we had Matt Kenseth, probably his last race. Yep. We had McMurray, who we don't know if it's his last race or not, but odds are
I would assume it's not his last race. He's gonna. If he doesn't have something come through, he's got to take that 500 offer, right?
He's been mum on the 500 offer, so we'll see.
But that's probably just because he's still shopping.
Yeah, it might be.
He's not going to say, "Yeah, I'm doing the 500 with Chip" if he's got an option at something else.
Yeah, maybe that 41 ride is still open. Who knows? Maybe. Maybe whatever he's doing. Allmendinger's last race.
Yep. I don't expect to see Allmendinger back. I don't expect to see McMurray back in a full-time capacity.
Yeah, sounds like he's done.
I could see maybe McMurray thinking about Xfinity, but
yeah,
I don't see Allmendinger doing that.
Yeah, so those were 3 guys. I think that was probably their swan song. I don't think anybody else falls into that.
Well, there were rumors on Reddit that Brad Keselowski might be pulling a Carl Edwards because there was a lot of talk on the radio and stuff about, gonna miss you guys and things like that. There was these little hints to the point that it was even checked out by some reporters and confirmed not to be the case. And then we found out after the fact that it wasn't that as big of a deal. It's just Joey Meyer, his spotter, is leaving.
He's been around a long time, by the way. Joey Meyer, one of the great spotters.
Yep. So Brad's still going to be there. He'll still be with Penske.
By the way, what a stable they have now. Without a championship, Logano's still pretty great, but now they have 2 champions and one of the best talents coming up. So
yeah,
Penske's got it going on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. What else? Let's see. We hit on a little bit on the Xfinity and the trucks. Xfinity race, Tyler Reddick wins the championship. I will admit, I told James before this, I did not watch a single lap of the Xfinity race, so I cannot speak much on it. I don't even know what happened. Where did Christopher Bell finish? I don't even know that.
Christopher Bell fell to 11th. Wasn't even really a factor. He led 9 laps. He was a lap down. The worst of the championship 4. Really weird. The big thing from this race is it was Cole Custer's to lose, and they blew it on the pit stop late in the race. He stayed on the track too long, and it allowed Tyler Reddick to make up that difference. And Kyle Larson shouted out Tyler Reddick. I saw on Twitter too. Just said he was banging the boards, running that Kyle Larson high line at Homestead. Tyler Reddick just stayed on it, and that if Cole Custer pits a little bit differently, they probably win the championship.
Yeah.
And he did it again. He led 95 laps. He was dominant.
Earl Barbin was on Sirius. He calls in every week, and he was talking about, having Reddick run that high line, and when he didn't need to anymore at the end of the race, he's still running up there. And people asked why he didn't, call down to him and call him off the wall. They say you don't need to do that anymore. And he's like, well, you don't know how the car's running elsewhere. Obviously, he's comfortable up there. If you tell him to move down, and then he screws up, or the car's not as good down there, and he ends up giving it up, then you're the guy who's wrong. So if he's not having any trouble, if he's happy running up there, let him run up there. And,
let the driver drive the car.
Yep, exactly.
Don't tell a driver how to drive a car.
Right.
You tell him keep him safe.
Yep.
But let that driver run where that driver wants to run.
You can tell him other people are running in different places, but don't be telling him where to go.
Yeah.
So, and then the Truck Series race, the only one, which we'll talk about a little bit how we did as far as our picks in a few minutes, but the only one that any of us got right. Brett Moffitt wins the Truck Series championship. I think this is one of the bigger stories of the weekend. I know Tyler Reddick's pretty big too, because I don't think any of us expected him to win. But Brett Moffitt, this team, again, we talked about it a ton last week, and we talked about it previously. They didn't even know that they were going to Chicago.
Yeah.
Like Tuesday before Chicago. Chicago's race was Friday. They didn't know if they were racing at Chicago. And they win Chicago after that and head to the championship. I'm excited about the fact I got to talk to Brett Moffitt a couple times this season, so I got to talk to the eventual champion of the Truck Series. But, just something else, man. I mean, this is a Cinderella story, and it'd be great to see. There was talk about the possibility of maybe even, another team coming, or add another team there, and it'd be cool to see this lower funded team be able to win a championship and expand or show success after that as a result, as opposed to the Cup Series where last year's champion the team's gone. But right now there's no word as far as Shiggy's team or Brett Moffitt for next season as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they closed the season out so strong. You'd have to think, man, let's keep it going if you can, because the final round they went 2-3-1 and then championship 1. So you don't do much better than that. So this team is literally at the top of the sport.
Which Zipadelli is his crew chief? I don't want to.
Scott Zipadelli.
So Scott was talking about pretty heavy too after the race about how great it is to work with Brett Moffitt and what a talent he is. And he's taken a team and that was not. They didn't have the sponsorship. They didn't have the funding to make a run for it, and he won the championship with that team. This is what the Truck Series is supposed to be about right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Brett Moffitt's proven what he can do in the Truck Series too, and that maybe he could go up.
Yeah. I think you win a championship in one of these series, you should get a shot at the next one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like maybe there's a seat that should be available. Even Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, hey, you won a championship.
You climbed the mountain.
I will say that these championships aren't quite as big of a deal as they were back when you had Cup drivers competing for points in them too, and potentially winning the championship as well. But it's still a championship, and to be able to beat those other guys out there's a lot of talent in these series. If you can do it, I think you deserve a shot at the next series.
Can I make a prediction for the 2019 Truck Series champion?
Go for it.
Harrison Burton's coming, people. Yeah. Harrison Burton's coming, and he's going to be driving Kyle Busch stuff.
Yep.
So look out.
Yeah.
I saw his name on the screen. I'm looking at all these numbers, and I'm like, oh yeah, Harrison Burton's going full time. That's probably going to be a problem.
Todd Gilliland, is anything set on him for next year?
I don't know if he's probably staying in the Truck Series. I think because he has to run he didn't run a full season this year, did he? Because he had to.
Yeah, he couldn't run them all because he had to sit some out because he wasn't 18.
Yeah, because David ran the other ones that he didn't run.
But I thought they were talking like they didn't know where he was going next year. So I don't know.
Oh, maybe I don't know.
A lot of these contracts in the Truck Series are 1-year contracts. So
Yeah, the Truck Series is so hard to look forward. You don't really know. Matt Crafton's going to be around and Johnny Sauter, and then after that, that's
Yeah, and we won't know until January.
No,
end of January is when we start.
There's so much young talent in the Truck Series. There's less of the old guys in the Truck Series, and a lot more young talent because there's no space, and they're overflowing into the Truck Series even more, which is great. We want to have a spot for these guys, but
I don't know. I like the guys could retire from the Cup Series and go run the Truck Series days too.
Yeah, they'd go on down. Yeah, absolutely.
But the feeder series, the steps we have now, especially with ARCA coming on board too.
Yeah, so talented, these guys.
There's a lot of steps to make your way up to the Cup Series now, which is pretty neat for drivers that can pull it off.
You can make a career out of being really good at one of the lower series. I mean, Elliott Sadler and Matt Crafton, these guys, they've had their shots in higher levels, but they are really good, in the Xfinity and trucks.
Jack Sprague, I heard him talking on a show. I think it might have been.
Yep, I was listening to that with Legends, Speedway Legends.
Exactly, saying that he shouldn't have stepped up to Cup. Should have stayed where he was.
Yep.
So yeah. Anything else about Homestead?
Man, the pass was really good. I don't know how I know we've kind of hinted on the restart, but man, what a drive! One of the great passes I feel like I've seen, for the championship. I mean, so much on the line.
I was waiting for Truex to try and hook him, and he just didn't get a chance.
Yeah, there was no opportunity.
He couldn't have done it even if he wanted to.
Yep, there was no chance for him to do it.
By the time he realized Logano was there, Logano was gone.
Yeah. Yep, gone and off to get his cup.
Yep.
We could eulogize Furniture Row Racing for a minute. I mean, that was their last race, and by God, they were close.
Yeah.
They really gave it a good shot.
Yep, they almost made it.
Too, by the way, they went with the flat black one last time, which was an awesome call.
I chuckled a little bit at Truex tearing up after the race because I don't know. I just had that moment of, you didn't get it done like you said you were going to get it done. And then he started talking about the Furniture Row thing. I was like, yeah, I get it. I understand. It's not just losing the championship. It's you wanted to do it with this team. This team means a lot to you.
Literally saved his career being on that team.
Right.
You got to think that there's such a bond with that team that, they were out there in Colorado by themselves. They must have just built this family out there, and it's probably been talked about quite a bit, but I mean, what Cole Pern did and Barney Visser, I don't know if we'll ever see a team climb that mountain like that again. That is just incredible. What Furniture Row did was incredible.
Single-handedly taken down by one driver.
Yes.
Carl Edwards.
Yes.
Seriously, if Carl wouldn't have left, they wouldn't have had to rush. Suarez was supposed to move in to Eric Jones's ride. That was the deal. Suarez was going to Furniture Row. And so Carl not only cost Furniture Row their team, but he's also cost Suarez a ride now.
Yeah, he did.
Because Truex has taken that ride away.
Well, Truex is the Grim Reaper, and it takes out every team he drives for.
Can you imagine a couple of years we're going to be talking about the end of Joe Gibbs Racing?
Yeah, Kyle Busch Motorsports will be thriving.
Yeah. We laugh, but
I know. No, I know. It's crazy the luck that Truex has had. I mean, golly, but
he's a good guy too. We've been ragging on Truex for a couple weeks, but Truex is a good guy.
He rubs us the wrong. Well, I won't speak for you, but he rubs me the wrong way time to time. But he rubs me the wrong way. But man, he really redefined himself as a driver and an all-time great. He's an all-time great driver. He's
resurrected his career twice.
Yes. Yes, I know. It's crazy. He survived Teresa Earnhardt to get to Michael Waltrip Racing and somehow found success with Michael Waltrip, which was just
So that just goes to show you that, yes, Cole Pern is a huge part of this puzzle, but Truex has got some talent there too.
Yeah, that 19 car is going to be pretty good next year. They will step up.
I think that is certainly one of the favorites for the championship next year. Now, a lot of unknowns. We got a new package coming. We got a new car in Ford. Ford supposedly knows what Chevy did and isn't going to make the same mistake. Of course, Chevy knew what Toyota did and wasn't going to make the same mistake, and we saw what happened there. Chevy's going to have their crap together. You'd assume a little bit better next year. There's a lot of variables that to say that it might not happen that way, but I think that 19 car or whatever number it ends up being is going to be a big deal next year.
Yeah, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah. So, anything else?
Anything else from Homestead? No, I think it was just probably wasn't the best championship race, but
I would say that
a good race.
The truck race wasn't spectacular. Been nice to have a couple cautions in there. It was good we had the stage breaks at least to break things up. Yeah. Just not. I mean, the racing was good. It was good racing, just not quite what you were expecting for a championship race. Now, I will say though, interesting thing, first time ever, I believe ever, that the champion in all 3 series won the final race.
Yeah, that was the first time I can recall. And also the final 4 for the Cup Series, 1, 2, 3, 4, that has not happened.
Yep, that is true. That was also brand new this year.
Yep. So, and you know what? Which
just goes to show you how strong those 4 were.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And every year can't be 2011, 2016, but if you can have a really good race, this is maybe not the best race that we've had.
It was good. It was good.
Really good.
I don't have a complaint about this race. It was a good race. It wasn't spectacular, but it was a good race.
Exactly, and the championship race wasn't a stinker, and that's all you can ask. I mean, you put on a good show, an entertaining show.
I don't think you get a bad race at Homestead. And, I'm glad I just thought of this. I want to point out something here. Homestead Miami Speedway is the perfect example of a track that cares.
Yes.
So an organization that cares. Because Homestead Miami, when they built this place, let's go back to the history of this thing. When they built this place, it was a mini Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was a rectangle track, sharp turns, flat turns. And they wanted a cup race. They were hurting drive. I mean,
they were getting a lot of bad accidents.
Yeah, there were bad accidents there.
People dying.
Exactly, because of those sharp walls. So they restructured the track and decided to make it basically a big Loudon, a 1.5 mile version of Loudon with flat turns, but they were curved, and it was horrible. This track was awful. It was the most boring race you could ever watch. They got their cup date. Nobody was happy. They decided, let's do a repave, and while we're at it, let's add a bunch of banking to it. We're not just going to add banking. We're going to add progressive banking. And at the time, it was the first track with progressive banking. We've since discovered that Michigan had progressive banking, and we just didn't know it. But they put the progressive banking in, and this track has been good since they built it this way. That first race with the banking was excellent, and they've got themselves a gem now. And this is what these tracks need to take note of. If the racing sucks at your track, keep working on it and get something that works. I mean, Vegas has tried to. I don't know I think they've succeeded, but not to the level of Homestead.
Yep.
So good on Homestead for getting this done. And I realize it's an ISC track and it's an ISC deal, but very cool for them to build this track that is the epitome of 1.5 mile racing in NASCAR. So.
Oh heck yeah, absolutely.
All right, James, let's talk some news. I'm going to give you pretty much full reign on this news stuff because you added these to the notes. I know very little about this over-the-top service, so talk to me about that.
Yeah, so NASCAR, basically, long story short, NASCAR looking to start an over-the-top service that you can subscribe to. Due date around 2020 is what they're saying. The catch being that they want to launch this service but with the understanding that you're not going to be able to watch your Cup Series, Truck Series, Xfinity Series races on there live. However, they would be able to get you access to all of the other series that NASCAR offers. So that could be Rolex or ARCA. Yep. K&N, all that stuff. And with the new format for the minor league K&N ARCA structure that NASCAR is going to be doing, could be really interesting in that route. So basically, fans would have to just subscribe, and it would be like any other Netflix streaming style service, and you'd have NASCAR racing 24/7. They would do some sort of a legendary package where you'd watch historical stuff and NASCAR at the palm of your hand racing.
So let me ask you a question, and I think your number is going to be different than mine. Give me the price. What's the comfortable price for you for something like this? What would you
Well,
be happy to do? What
sure.
would make you a subscriber?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'm going to gauge this off of another service that I have tried but have not yet bit on. The ESPN Plus.
Okay.
ESPN Plus offers a ton of live sports and service to all of their content, like TV shows, replays, everything, and they charge $4.99 a month for ESPN Plus.
Okay.
But my trial, I was like, I don't know how much I would really use this, so I haven't bit the bullet on that $5 bill. I think for something like this, I think $2.99 a month would be a fair price, don't you? I mean, for until you get the top level series, I'm not going to pay you $10 a month for it. But
if it was $2.99 a month, I would subscribe for life. I would sign a contract that says
for life,
I will be a subscriber
perpetuity.
for life if you keep my price at $2.99 a month.
Yes.
So here's my deal. I don't know, James. I don't even know how much of a wrestling fan you are, if any. If you even care about
WWE
wrestling.
Network.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I used to be a diehard WWE guy. Actually, WWE and WCW. We used to buy both pay-per-views every month for both organizations. It was ridiculous. So I watched a lot of wrestling in my time, and I quit watching wrestling. Actually, the last wrestling event that I watched was WrestleMania at Ford Field, and I was there live, and I literally quit watching wrestling that night. No reason in particular. Maybe because our future president was in a hair versus hair match that night, but I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, I'd given up on the storylines, had enough of it, and quit watching. I started watching again when they launched WWE Network and made it to where you didn't have to sign for 3 months. As soon as they took the 3-month restriction off, I signed up for a couple months just to try it to see what it was like. And I wasn't interested in the wrestling anymore, but that service is awesome. If NASCAR can do something similar to that, and I'll give you this, WWE Network, you do get to watch Raw live on it, I believe, or you could, but you couldn't watch it delayed. So if you missed Raw, you couldn't go on there and watch this week's Raw. You had to wait 3 weeks before it was on the service for you to watch it.
Right.
So even with that caveat, I would have been, if I was still watching wrestling, I'd have been comfortable paying $10 a month. If they can pull a system together like that, that's similar as far as quality, I would pay $10 a month for it, even without the National Series races, especially if I can still get the National Series races delayed. Like if they, like a week later or even 3 or 4 days later, they throw them on there, which I'm assuming they can because they put them on YouTube. If I can get that,
Right.
I'd be okay with it too.
Yeah.
I would pay $10 a month for this. And I pay right now, I pay $30 a month for the NHL network. Now, I won't pay that all season. I will pay $30 a month for a month, and I'll go, I'm not watching much hockey. Let me shut it off. And then, it'll get close to playoff time, and I'll probably kick it back on for a couple months. But that's, that gives you an idea of where I'm willing to spend for a really good package, because I'm a Chicago Blackhawks fan. In addition to the Red Wings, I can't watch the Red Wings games on NHL Network because they're local games, but I can watch those on my local channel. But I can't watch the Blackhawks, so I will pay for the service to watch the Blackhawks. Right. So, and I paid a fortune for frickin' NFL when I was really watching the Bears consistently, and there's only 16 games. So,
yeah, absolutely.
And NASCAR is my sport, so I'm willing to pay for it. $10 a month easy without live races, and if they add the live races to it, when they do that, I'd be willing to pay $15-$20 easily.
Yeah, I
not
wish
happily.
Right.
I'd much happier pay $3.
Oh, absolutely. And if they promised me all of the live races, yeah, I'd do $10 a month easy. Even what I would love to see them do is have the streaming service in place. But why can't we have an option to pay, pay an additional $3 this week for NBC's coverage from Martinsville or whatever? And why can't we just unlock the NBC streaming coverage?
So none of that matters to me because I've got YouTube TV anyway.
Sure.
So I've got the race in my hand if I want to.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah. So that none of that stuff bothers me, and most people aren't in that boat, but I'm assuming more people will be. I know Charter is our cable option where I'm at, and Charter is starting to try and push that stuff too, where it's streaming instead of over the cable. Yeah. So all that's coming. And
this is great for NASCAR, though.
Yeah.
This is what they need to be doing. They're a little bit behind on it. They probably should have started these discussions a while ago, but It shows that they are doing the right thing. Like, go to where where you want your customers to be found.
Yep.
They want to catch the generation of my age and younger. They got to be here. You just have to. Nobody's buying cable anymore.
I'll tell you what's really nice about this too is, I mean, YouTube TV, when I covered the races this year, I sat in the tower and my setup was I had TweetDeck open on one half of my computer. On the other half, I had a tab with Google Chrome, or had Google Chrome running, and I had one tab had the results, the live results on it. The other tab had the YouTube TV broadcast of the race. So I could go back and watch a caution or replay or whatever, go back to something that I maybe missed, and it was awesome. And if I go to a race, I've got my smartphone with me. If I'm sitting in the stands and there's an accident or something I missed, I can pop the smartphone out and replay that. So to give fans that option, it would be pretty cool. I mean, I think it's great. Yeah,
one thing Twitter did for Phoenix that I really loved was they had the battle cam, and there was no announcing or anything like that. It was just a camera, and whenever there was a pass on the track or there was a battle, the camera would just go over to that part of the track, and you were watching the live race. It was awesome.
That's like NFL Red Zone, but for NASCAR.
Yeah. Yep. It was
Which, by the way, Red Zone is the greatest channel in the world.
It is, yes.
It's also the worst because you can't go to the bathroom because there's no commercials.
Right. Just go when the Browns are being featured.
Always good action. Yeah. Well, the Browns, do they ever feature the Browns? They have to be in the red.
They're getting scored on.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with the Lions, right? They're not on there much.
Oh, well, the Lions are, they're
Who's leading the NFC North right now?
The Bears.
Yeah, that's right. They are, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. We got a nice Thanksgiving matchup coming up here on Thursday.
I know. I'm pretty excited about that. The Kitty Cats are going to be crying.
I hope you guys kick our butt. I am so sick. That's a whole nother rant I'm not going to get into.
Yeah,
so mad at the Lions right now. I don't even want to talk about it.
All right. So what's the other? We got another news item here, James. This one is all you because I knew nothing about this.
Yeah, we'll keep this short and sweet. It doesn't have to be a long little talk. I just thought it was really cool to share. So Joey Logano's pit crew member Ray Gallahan, he fuels the car. Homestead was his last race, so he's going out as the champion.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool. And now he's going to be an assistant pit coach for Team Penske next year. He's 35. The cool part about this story, though, and something that I had actually forgotten about, was in 2014, Joey Logano was in the hunt to win his first championship. And if you remember, 20 laps to go in that race, Joey was still in the hunt, and the car fell off the jack. And who was running that jack but Ray Gallahan?
That's interesting.
So he gets his last race, and he gets the sweet redemption story that he gets to win a championship. And the team, all the pit crew members were super stoked on social media for him. And then Dustin Long wrote a little piece for NBC Sports on it. And I just I linked it into the show notes so you guys can take a quick look. It's a pretty short piece, but just a cool story. I mean, that's part of the team sport aspect of this, where we don't get to hear about the pit crew members very often. I just thought it was a very cool little tie-in for Joey's championship.
I will give NBC a lot of credit. And by the way, the worst thing about the season ending is that NBC is also ending for half the season. I was watching some videos of the best passes and best moments, best finishes of the 2018 season on YouTube. And every time I hear Darrell Waltrip speak, I cringe.
He's coming.
Just not looking forward to him being
89 days away from the Daytona. Here he comes.
I can't do it. Anyway, they did that with all 4 of the championship teams, picked somebody on the pit crew to do a piece about before the race, and I thought that was a pretty neat thing too. They did it. NBC's done an excellent job. Let's give a little applause to NBC for their coverage this season. It has been spectacular, and they really
did a job.
They've given Fox a lot to live up to.
Yeah, Rick Allen has been really good. They just I know, but they had good
Rick
chemistry.
Allen's been good.
Yeah, they had good chemistry in the booth, though.
They did. They had excellent chemistry. Those
guys added a 4th man to the booth and figured it out.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Rick just needs to learn some more vocabulary.
Oh, sure.
That's his biggest thing. He just needs to, and he's gotten better. He has gotten better.
My vocabulary is tapped out on this podcast every week. So.
Yeah. Ricky Allen was a really good Truck Series announcer because, a 200-mile, 150-mile announcer, that was about his distance, and then he ran out of catchphrases. For 400 to 600 miles, it's a little rough. But, total respect to him. That's a freaking tough job. So, and you've got a ton of critics. So, and I don't want to take anything away from him. I like Rick Allen. I'm not saying replace Rick Allen. I do wish he'd improve a little bit, but he has. So, but you're right. The chemistry there. If those guys aren't buddies, then they do a really darn good job of making it look like they are.
Yeah, they all fit in together, which is really cool.
When NBC had Bestwick and Bill Weber and all those guys, you could tell they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
You can tell at times.
Bill Weber very popular.
You can tell at times when the Fox guys aren't getting along. But there was none of that in the NBC broadcast. They all seem to really like each other.
I look forward to Jeff Gordon trying to talk and then not knowing what to say after Darrell Waltrip says something that just baffles him. It's one of my favorite things.
The one I just the third or fourth big one at the 500 last year, and Darrell Waltrip. Are you kidding me? Shut up, DW.
DW's put in his time.
I know.
Enjoying himself.
I respect Darrell a lot, but it's just gotten old.
Yeah, he just needs to go.
He's a mockery of himself now. He just needs to calm down.
Yes.
He really is good. He's good in the booth. He's just now gone beyond what he should be doing.
Yes, cartoon. He's kind of a cartoon now.
89 days from boogity, boogity, boogity.
Oh, and it's even shorter than that if you're going to watch the Clash.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, crap. Anyway, yeah, let's recap some of the 2018 season, James, real quick. We'll kind of try and bust through this a little fast because we've stretched this out pretty long.
Heck
but,
yeah.
But
the champ podcast, I was ready for a long one.
Yeah,
I told my
figured it'd be long.
I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen on the podcast tonight. Well, we got a championship to discuss.
Yeah, I don't want to rush these either because there's some good discussion in here, I think. 2018 season. So favorite moments. What were? Give me a couple of your favorite moments, or give me one of your favorite moments this year, James.
Yeah, the one that jumps to mind, I'm probably going to steal it from you, and you were there, Chicagoland.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Chicagoland was one of my favorite moments of the season. That race was just phenomenal. It was a good race, and it ended between Larson and Kyle Busch, just great overall. That's NASCAR at its best.
Okay, since you stole that one, because that one's definitely my favorite. And definitely the favorite. A close second is another absolute spectacular, and if not the best finish at Eldora for the Truck Series race.
Nice. Yeah.
That was a heck of a finish with Chase Briscoe and why can't I think of his name? Grant Enfinger, battling the line for the win.
Yep.
Excellent finish. Excellent race again at Eldora. Just never seems to disappoint there for sure.
Yeah, and start to finish, my favorite, just to add on to that, it needs to be mentioned as a favorite moment, the Roval, everything about it.
Yeah.
That is, start to finish, probably the best product NASCAR had all season was the Roval.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal shootout, and I cannot wait for it to come back next year.
Same here.
Let's see TV.
Let's say a semi-successful all-star debut of the package we're going to see next season. I think we took a race that has really stunk for the past few years and made a good race out of it.
That's great too. Yeah, that's a good point. A good point.
I'm not saying this as a proponent for what they're going to do next season. I am not going to bash what they're doing next season. It's done. It's happening. So I'm going to be optimistic about it and say it's going to be great.
Yep.
But the All-Star race was definitely, no matter how you look at it, was improved by that package this year.
Yep. And I crinkled my nose at it a little bit, but like you said, this is what we are dealt with in this day and age. So we're going to have to find out what it is.
Yep.
So let's see it. Let's see it going forward.
Agreed. Most important. What's the most important moment of the season?
Boy, there's a few. You want to take this one first? I went first last time.
I don't even know.
I think you hit on it with your last comment. I think the looming
new package
is going to end up being, we're going to look back at this season as the cutoff for what could be the biggest change in the history of the sport.
Okay.
Possibly.
I'm going to combine this with the last question on here, which is what's the biggest story of the 2018 season. I think the most important thing that happened this season and the biggest story of 2018 is the closure of the defending championship team.
That's big. Yeah,
that's huge. And if that doesn't tell you something about what what we're dealing with in NASCAR right now, then you're blind. And I'm a very big proponent for NASCAR. I don't think NASCAR is dying, but NASCAR does need some help right now, and that is the perfect sign of it. I don't think there's no way. I mean, we've had some big stories this year, but I don't think there's any way that you get a bigger story than that one.
Yeah, I think for me, my big story, and it's going to tie into what was bad about the season, breaking the rules.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. And we ended on a really sour note with Kevin Harvick at Texas, but it was a season full of races being taken away. It started with that 4-car early in the season.
Yep.
And it seems like a long time ago, but remember all the dented windows,
yep.
At the 1.5-mile tracks.
God,
and it just seemed
this season,
like it lingered.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was this season. It seemed like it lingered. The rules issues seemed like they just kind of lingered all season long.
It seems like that was last year.
I know, but it was this year. Isn't that crazy?
So here's the thing. I don't want to throw any accusations out there that I don't have reason to believe are true. And Harvick's team claims that was the only race that spoiler was on the car.
Nah,
but that car. How many times did we talk this year, James, that car had something special? There was something that team was doing that nobody else was doing. There was some reason that car was untouchable. He won 8 times this year, and could have won 4 more at least.
Yep.
And there was just something that even his teammates could not do that car could do, and it just makes me wonder how many times that spoiler was on the car during those races.
Yeah, and shame on NASCAR if that's the case for not catching that thing earlier.
Yep. I mean, I will say Kevin Harvick was pretty darn average the 2 weeks since that spoiler left.
Yeah, I mean, he was good at Homestead, but everybody elevated at Homestead, so it's hard to distinguish.
He wasn't dominating at Homestead.
No, he was not. He was not.
I think the telling tale will be Atlanta next year.
Yep, and we're gonna see a whole new package next year.
Well, we aren't gonna see that package at Atlanta though.
I thought they were already testing it at Atlanta.
I think they tested it, but I don't believe that package is.
Well, you might be right.
My understanding of the announcement was that package debuts after Atlanta.
Oh, all right then.
I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure that debuts after Atlanta.
I guess I assumed because they were doing the test there that they were going to run it.
Yeah,
so
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that it does not include Atlanta. Or Daytona and Atlanta, I thought.
Okay.
I might have to do some research. We might have to pause the podcast for a second.
I'm going to have to take your word for. Oh, we could have a sponsor come in here. This is what we could do.
Yeah, there we go. Let's have a fake sponsor. I'm going to pause because I want to look that up because I want to make sure it's true. Tapered spacer aero ducts use oval tracks larger than 1 mile, smaller spacer. 5 races at larger ovals are exceptions. Both Pocono events and races at Atlanta, Darlington, and Homestead will use the smaller tapered spacer, but will not use the aero ducts that transfer air to the side of the car away from the front tires.
It'll be a version of the package.
So we get the spacer at Atlanta, but we do not get the air ducts until after Atlanta.
Gotcha.
So there you go. And that's we're back now, James.
Okay.
So we're back.
Good.
You just heard. That's what it is. So we sort of get the package, but we don't get the full package. Which I think probably the tapered spacer is the bigger deal than the air ducts, I think. So
yep, absolutely.
The air ducts are just gonna slow it down a little bit more, but the tapered spacer is what's gonna reduce the horsepower and everything. So I was half right. See, yep. It's confusing. It was a confusing announcement. So
heck yeah, it is.
Let's see. Any bads?
Nope. I think the rules was bad. Sometimes some of the 1.5 mile racing was really bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not, to me, that's not the worst thing in the world either. That's just something that.
And maybe because I was there, Kentucky was boring at times. I didn't think Kentucky was that bad.
You were at 2 races that ended up on Jeff Cluck's bottom 5.
Yeah.
Kentucky and Michigan.
Yeah.
I saw that today. I was like, oh man, Eric was at 2 of those.
Yeah, but next year, I was gonna bail on Kentucky because the racing was so bad, but the staff was so good there and everything. I'm pretty sure I'm going back to Kentucky next year because of the package.
Yeah, got to see it.
I think that's going to be exciting there. And
could be good, yeah.
That place, I'll tell you what, I'm going to hit as many SMI tracks as possible. That's a news item we didn't talk about, James. So Elliott Sadler was denied entry to the garage area at Homestead, Miami this week because he didn't have his credential. He didn't have his parking pass on him. And the guy, he asked the guard, he says, "You know who I am, right?" And the guard says, "Yeah, I know who you are, but you need a parking pass." And he wouldn't let him in. And
That's
so he had
fantastic.
to jump through hoops to get in there. And I'm not going to bail Elliott Sadler out and all because some people love him, some people don't. But I dealt with the same type of stuff at Chicagoland, and it's frustrating. And I'll tell you what, I didn't deal with any of that stuff at an SMI track. I had no problem. At Kentucky, first of all, as a media member, Kentucky gives you a badge that says media, which is awesome. So you're already separate from everybody else, whereas all the ISC tracks give you a P badge, which means nothing. Everybody who's in the pits has a P badge. So then it's just based on the stickers you have when you're at an ISC track. So, but the staff at Kentucky was spectacular, totally spectacular. I love that place. So I'm probably going back next year. So,
Awesome.
James, who failed to live up to their potential the most? I'm going to give you this one first because I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
Who failed to live up to their potential the most, or who was the biggest disappointment this season?
I'm going to talk myself through this one just a touch. I think it's easy to say Kyle Larson.
Okay.
And I tend to agree that he should be better. And he was probably the best Chevy for the most part until Chase Elliott started winning. But I think my biggest disappointment is going to end up being Daniel Suarez.
That's funny because I was going that direction too.
Yeah, it just didn't work, and maybe he needs more time, and maybe it's just a mixture of Suarez and Gibbs. But yeah, I mean, they're giving up on him and they're moving on, and it's hard to blame him, I guess. But that he was heading. There was a point in the season where he was heading in the right direction, and at some point it just fell off the rails.
Right. I will give you two more. One of these is not really the biggest disappointment, but a disappointment. And the other one is my biggest since you took the Daniel Suarez. And the ironic thing is in the point standings, they're right by each other. So my not really, but sort of is William Byron. I expected Byron to come out here and win a race. And he had a decent season. He finished 23rd in points. It was okay, but it wasn't. It showed that he was human,
Yeah, he's a rookie. Yeah, he was a rookie.
And part of that was Hendrick struggling and Chevy struggling and all that. But part of it was he just didn't live up to the hype coming in. And my big one is AJ Allmendinger. AJ had opportunities to come out and do something on road courses, blew the opportunity.
Yeah,
every chance he had. And basically cost himself a career in the Cup Series.
I fired him. I fired him on the podcast after Sonoma.
Yeah,
I do remember that because I said, "What do you have him for if that's what he's going to do?"
Right, and I like AJ a lot. I want to see him succeed. I was a big fan. I mean, most of the time when somebody gets caught on a drug charge or drug thing, I'm pretty down on him because I know there's a lot of people that would die for the chance to race in this series and to have the opportunity these guys have, and when they blow it on something stupid, it pisses me off. But AJ, I was rooting for AJ all along. I don't think AJ's is one of those instances where he blew it. And I was excited to see him come back. I was excited to see him get another opportunity, and he just hasn't been able to do with it what I'd hoped he would. And this season certainly was, the nail in the coffin for AJ. So
yeah. And at the end of the day, just to maybe play devil's advocate with you, a lower funded team, he was able to win a race at one point in his career, which
that is true.
That's not a small feat, and it's just that team's just wasn't there.
And they were also in a Chevrolet this year.
Yeah, but he still should have performed at the road courses a lot better. But he was a veteran in the sport. He made it for quite a while. So
my problem with his performance in the road courses isn't because of an underfunded team, because he screwed up.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It was his fault.
Yes.
So
I agree with you 100%.
When you blow the motor, that's your fault.
Yeah. Took himself right out of it.
Yep. I'll take this one first, and I'm going to take the one that you're going to pick too.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Who surpassed their potential? Who was the biggest surprise of the season? It's got to be Eric Almirola. It has to be. I mean, this guy came in. You and I were both saying it was a lateral move from Danica Patrick to Eric Almirola.
Yeah, were we wrong. That would be a fun one to go back and play.
fifth place in the points, killer playoffs, almost made the championship 4, and just, I mean, he got a race win. He almost won the Daytona 500, the first race out. I mean, this guy.
We should have known from that moment that this was going to be a special season for him.
This guy lived up to everything and then some. There's no way anybody at Stewart-Haas is disappointed with Eric Almirola's season. It was spectacular, way more than what they expected. And I forget who it was that tweeted the difference between Danica Patrick and Eric Almirola.
Well, I think I retweeted that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What was it? One drove a race car, one was a racer or something like that?
Yeah, something. Yeah, and then there were some statistics I saw too that were just incredible. But yeah.
So
yeah, good for him, man. I mean, that whole team was super strong, and he was probably, at the end of the day, the record book will say he was the second best driver this season on that team.
Yeah.
Well, he was still, in my opinion, he was probably still the fourth team on there. But man, did he finish this season strong! He really came into it in the playoffs. Just looked really good.
I would have to say, with Clint Boyer and now Daniel Suarez likely coming to that team, I think Eric Almirola is going to get the resources second. If I was them, I would throw the resources behind him. That, you know. If you're going to pick a team to be your number 2, I would pick that team to be your number 2.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. They had a phenomenal season.
Yeah, he's a guy. I don't see Eric Almirola contending for a championship legitimately, but he's a good number 2 tier driver for your team. He's gonna win you some races. He's gonna win you some money.
Yeah, why couldn't he have a Clint Boyer type career?
Yeah,
you know, when Clint Boyer was winning more races, obviously, but why couldn't that be his? You know,
hey, Clint Boyer won 2 races this year.
He did. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying he's had some down times too.
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
But when he was doing really well at Michael Waltrip Racing, that's what I think you could have for Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
Like a fringe contender.
Yep.
But that being said, I mean, if a couple dominoes fall his way, he could have maybe won this championship, which is so easy. But
he could have.
So since you took that one, my big surprise. I think my biggest surprise didn't come until a little bit later this year, but. It wasn't that Chase Elliott won a race. It's that I think he made the leap from a good driver to, like, he's a great driver.
Yeah.
He's now the superstar that his fans want him to be.
Right.
And he's got to carry it moving forward. But there's in sports sometimes you see athletes or whatever, they make a leap. And Chase Elliott got that win and got that monkey off his back. And all of a sudden, he's winning Dover. He's winning Kansas. A great season for him. Finished 6th in the points at the end of the day. So there's only momentum going forward now. Don't go backwards. Don't pull the Kyle Larson and go backwards. But
not even Kyle Larson. How about Eric Jones? I mean, you can take that Chase Elliott story and completely compare and contrast it to Eric Jones. You get the guy that you always say, okay, he's got that win. You know, Larson was like that. He's got that win. Now the floodgates are going to open. Well, usually they don't. And for Chase, they did. Eric Jones, they didn't. Kyle Larson, they haven't. I mean, if you take the 2-mile tracks out of the schedule, Kyle Larson's a 1 race winner.
Yes.
You know, he's got 1 win to his name.
Yep. Yeah, he's another one. He's got to take the positives and go for. I mean, he had some second place finishes this year, and you know, possibly could have won Chicago and a few others, but yeah, these guys, they have to, and this rules package is going to change everything. So looking forward, it's going to be so hard for us next year. But
when do we have to pick the champion next year at the beginning of the season, James?
Yeah, we don't even know I don't even know what I'm going to do yet.
Okay, well, let me throw that at you then. Let's make this be the finishing point for today, and we'll run through our horrible picks for the championship real quick when we're done here. But that's your pick. Spur of the moment. Who's your champion for 2019?
I'm going to say Kyle Busch because I think he will adapt better than anyone.
I'm with you. Same vote, which sucks because that we're together, but I think Kyle's the guy.
If one guy can adapt better than anybody, it'll be Kyle Busch. I think this change in horsepower is going to affect Stewart-Haas racing pretty bad. I don't know if Harvick at this stage of his career will be able to recover from it.
Yeah.
And you could say like somebody like Byron, this might be the perfect time for him.
Yep.
It could completely change his trajectory. So I just think Kyle Busch, if anybody's going to adapt quicker than anybody, it'll be Kyle.
Cool. I've got a bunch more questions like that, but we'll save those for one of the postseason podcasts. Really quick, James, you left this in here because you wanted to rub in the fact that we suck at picking. So we picked for the championship and our race pick for Homestead for the Cup Series. I picked Kyle Busch to win it. Kyle Busch finished fourth of those four. You picked Kevin Harvick. He was third of those four.
That's right.
Dark horse, you picked Kyle Larson to win the race.
That looked pretty good for a hot second.
Yeah. I picked Denny Hamlin. Where the heck did he end up?
That actually looked pretty good for a hot second too.
Yeah, he was running pretty well. Our championship picks, Christopher Bell was my pick for the Xfinity Series. Yours was Cole Custer. Cole Custer looked a lot better than Christopher Bell.
Yeah, I almost got that one.
And I got the Truck Series pick with Brett Moffitt. You picked Johnny Sauter, which Johnny Sauter was a freaking disaster that night.
Yeah. And my reasons for picking him were, he's been there before. He's a veteran. Oh, my God.
They were bad rolling off the truck, and they were never good all week.
Unbelievable.
Terrible.
Unbelievable. Johnny Sauter.
So there we go. Don't trust us with our picks because we suck at it.
Yeah, fade our picks. If we make picks, fade them and go the other way.
Shout outs. Go ahead with your shout out. I already shouted out Jeff Gluck. Go for yours, James.
Most of our fantasy league quit, but Todd and I duked it out, and he completely dominated me. So Todd wins the fantasy league championship, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, his bracket came out the cleanest out of all three of us too. Nice. So Todd is the he's a problem because he makes us look
battle
stupid.
Todd on statistics. I'll tell you what, I might have to employ Todd next season and get him in as part of helping us out with the site or something, and get him doing some statistics stuff because he does this already anyway.
He was one of the highest in the entire fantasy league, like not our league, like overall. Like he was way up there. He was messaging me about it. Like he was like,
nice.
Oh, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he had put up some monster numbers in our fantasy league. There was no catching him.
If I remember correctly, he told me that he keeps track of the point standings as they would be under the old system still every week.
That's crazy. Todd, you're crazy.
He's crazy. So yeah, we might have to make some plans for Todd and get him involved next season.
Yeah, off season or something. Come on.
Speaking of off season, let's talk a little bit about what we're gonna do. First of all, everybody, thanks for joining us and sticking it out all season. We had a couple weeks where we did pretty well on the old listens category, so we appreciate that. We like everybody that's jumped on board and joined us. We're not going anywhere for the off season. We are taking next week off. So unless something big happens, unless we get some big signings or somebody retires like Carl Edwards or whatever, we will not be back next week. But we are continuing through the off season. We'll have some podcasts. We're still working out what we're going to do. We chatted a little bit before the show tonight. At least every other week we'll have something. We might try to plan some stuff to do throughout the other weeks, so there's some new content and some things. We've got some ideas, so we'll just leave it at that. And so we're not going anywhere for the off season. We'll go back to weekly once the season comes back around. Once we get to probably the week before the shootout.
I feel like we need to break down another NASCAR related movie like we did last off season with Days of Thunder.
Yeah, I think Talladega Nights is probably there.
Talladega Nights is looming. Yes.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that.
Cars.
So, yeah.
We could break down the entire Cars franchise.
I'll tell you what, if there's a franchise out there that both of those, man, and I won't get into it here, but the accuracy and stuff that they have, the history in Cars 3 is spectacular. It's great if you know the sport.
Oh yeah,
so
stuff. That's the kind of stuff we do in the off season. We have ridiculous conversations and.
Yeah, we'll probably bring the family on one time. I don't think we still haven't gotten your wife on the podcast, have we?
No, we should definitely try that at some point.
We need to actually get together, James, and just sit down.
Yeah,
and do
we only did so. Just to let people behind the curtain a little bit, yeah. I think we only did one podcast in person for the entire season this year, and that was because we had a phone interview with MI Speedway. So
technically there were 3, but 2 of those you weren't involved in.
That's true.
One of them was that was a cool moment. Probably
super sub.
Probably the cool moment of the season for the podcast was interviewing the Orange Cone at MIS, and then Aaron Bearden, of course, jumped on board and joined us for the post-race Michigan podcast as well, because James was vacationing, whatever that is. What's a vacation?
Got the heck out of here, man.
Jeez, I went on vacation. I took my freaking podcast equipment and did it from the hotel room. What the heck?
I feel bad because, if you watch a lot of TV or movies and stuff, and you look at IMDb and you look at how many episodes like actors are on movies, like Eric is by far the star now because he's made it on every episode, and I'm too short.
Well, it helps that I record the podcast, so.
Well, I mean, you're the one who makes the magic happen around here. I'm just the other guy, so that's cool.
I push all the buttons, so it's kind of hard for you to.
Yeah, you could turn me off at any time, and I'd never know the difference. I'd just be over here babbling to myself.
You might be off right now. All right, so that's it for the 2018 season. It's hard to believe that it's over with. It seems like just yesterday it was just starting, but we got ourselves a new champion. We come back again next year, do it all over again. Like I said, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back in 2 weeks, if not sooner, and we'll do all kinds of stuff throughout the off season to keep you guys entertained. So don't go anywhere. Keep listening. Keep us in your subscribe column there in your old podcast app or whatever, however you listen to us. James, where can they find you on social media if they want to chat with you during the off season?
James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperSpeedway on Twitter. You can also find me at Eric8199 because that's probably the account that I'll be on more so now that the season's over with. You can find the podcast on Facebook.com/TheSuperSpeedway. Our website is TheSuperspeedway.com. You can find our podcasts on there. Show notes for all the podcasts. You can click on the articles that we've talked about during the podcast. There's photos and coverage and stuff from past races on there as well, so check that out. Hopefully some more cool stuff next season. Want to get some more regular content on there because, I mean, really, we're all about the podcast. The podcast is our main thing. The website is kind of secondary. When we go to a race and cover stuff, we really hit the websites hard, but we don't have as much during the weeks we're not at the track, which is the majority of the season. So I'd like to do something a little bit more with it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, hopefully soon to be more places. If you like what you hear, you want to contribute, you want to help us get to the track a little bit more next year, get a little bit more content on the web, visit us at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. Pick one of the tiers, become a patron today, and help become part of the podcast and get us where we need to go. I think that's it, James. It's crazy. Man. It's crazy that the season's over.
Congratulations on making it. We've done this 2 full seasons now.
Yeah, 88 episodes.
88 episodes. This is our Dale Jr. podcast.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Our 88th episode.
Nice.
I don't know if we're gonna hit 100 before the Daytona 500, but maybe that's maybe that's a goal. Maybe the Daytona 500 could be our 100th podcast if we time it right.
Do we want it to be the cool Daytona 500 preview or the post coverage?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how we would do that. I'm thinking too far ahead. My brain is fried at this point.
All right, on that note, we're going to head on out of here. We'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. Until then, let's go racing. The Super Speedway. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. Jeez. And now I just clicked the wrong thing. This is what happens in the off season, guys. It all goes to hell. Here we go. Let's go racing. I'm not cutting any of that out.
Man, we were coming off the corner, coming to the checkered flag, and we ran out of gas.
Yeah, we were Todd Gilliland, man.